Multiple sclerosis impacts a relatively small number of folks in the US, but is what we consider a model chronic illness. We can use the knowledge that we gain from research with MS patients to apply to other types of illnesses. It's a chronic illness that impacts every part of your body, and so it looks different for every single person. So some folks may have vision issues, some folks have motor or gait issues, but what can often happen is our social health or our social environment can impact our psychological health. And what we see in our research is that that gets embedded in our bodies, and so it makes it more difficult for our bodies to navigate an illness like multiple sclerosis when we have negative impacts on our social health and psychological health. We look at inflammatory markers, and we're attempting to determine whether or not our social experiences or our psychological health impact the levels of inflammatory markers in MS. So it helps us to more accurately pinpoint what types of experiences we might need to target in intervention so that we can sort of disrupt the pathway to psychological distress and then perhaps limit the impact on the body. Our health is very much connected, and rural communities tend to have a lack of access to all of the things that make us healthier. Managing a chronic illness like multiple sclerosis in rural communities can be more difficult than managing in urban environments or towns or cities that are more resource intensive. And so we often see the disparities in all illnesses, but multiple sclerosis exacerbate in rural communities. The second phase of the Disrupt MS study looks at working with patient-provider coalitions. So we have a group of patients and a group of providers that include psychologists, neurologists, we have public health providers, and we're going to sit together and take the understanding that we built from that first phase of the research, sort of how these pathways interact with one another, to build a psychological intervention that we expect that therapists might use at the point of intervention, at the point of care for patients with multiple sclerosis. We really want providers to think about focusing on the whole person in MS care, but we also want providers to be thinking about how we might apply the knowledge from this research to other forms of chronic illness, especially those forms of chronic illness where we see deep levels of disparities for differing populations. I get excited to think about the ways we might improve lives overall, and developing psychological intervention is something that can really improve the lives of individual patients, and that's exciting to be a part of.